What if World War III isn't just a distant nightmare, but something quietly building in plain sight, with rising global tensions, aggressive foreign policies, and old rivalries bubbling to the surface? The question isn't just if World War III could happen, but where it might begin, and who could start it. So today, we're breaking down the top 5 countries most likely to ignite the next World War, not out of fear, mongering, but to better understand how close we are to the edge, and what it would actually take to push the world over. Let's jump in. #5, North Korea, unpredictable, isolated, nuclear-armed, that's a dangerous combo. North Korea has been flexing its military muscle for years, testing ballistic missiles, threatening its neighbors, and building a nuclear arsenal, and the leadership under Kim Jong-un, it's hard to read. That's part of what makes them such a wild card. Their missile tests often fly over Japan, they've shelled South Korean islands, and every once in a while they drop a headline like capable of striking the U.S. mainland. The scariest part, their internal politics are completely closed off. There's no transparency, no checks and balances. If Kim decides to make a move, say, launching a preemptive strike or reacting to what he sees as provocation, it could trigger a major regional war. Now imagine that spiraling out. The U.S. is treaty, bound to defend South Korea. Japan would likely be drawn in. China, while not thrilled about North Korea's behavior, wouldn't want American forces pushing up to its border. That's the kind of high-stakes mess that pulls multiple world powers into a fight fast. Most analysts still believe North Korea is more bark than bite. But if they ever decide to test that theory, the results could be catastrophic. #4, Iran. Iran sits at the heart of the Middle East, one of the most volatile regions on the planet. And while Iran doesn't want a world war, the wrong move could easily set off a global firestorm. Why? Because Iran's influence stretches far beyond its borders. They fund and arm proxy groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and militias in Iraq and Syria. They've had repeated clashes with Israel, launched drone strikes on Saudi oil fields, and been accused of attacking international shipping routes. But the biggest flashpoint, a direct confrontation with Israel or the United States. If Iran were to push too far, say, by attacking U.S. forces in the region or by launching a major strike against Israel, the retaliation would be swift and brutal. And that could spark a much wider conflict, pulling in NATO allies, Gulf states, and possibly even Russia or China, depending on how things unfold. Add in the nuclear issue with Iran advancing its uranium enrichment, and the stakes get even higher. One misstep, one strike too far, one retaliation gone wrong, and we're looking at a chain reaction no one can stop. #3, Russia has already invaded a European country in the 21st century twice. First Crimea in 2014, then the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. And while that war is ongoing, it's already had massive global ripple effects. Energy prices, food shortages, weapons stockpiles drained, NATO expansion. But here's why Russia is so high on this list. They've repeatedly threatened to use nuclear weapons. Whenever the West pushes too far, supports Ukraine too strongly, or tightens sanctions, Russian state media and even top officials start tossing around nuclear warnings. This could lead to total destruction. We will respond with everything we have. Even if some of that is just political posturing, it shows how dangerous the mindset is. Russia sees NATO not just as an opponent, but as a threat to its existence. Now picture this: a NATO member accidentally gets hit by a Russian missile, or a cyber attack shuts down critical infrastructure in a Western country, and it's traced back to Moscow. Under NATO's rules, that's an attack on one equals attack on all. From there, a full-scale war could explode almost overnight, and with Russia's massive nuclear arsenal, the consequences would be global and immediate. And remember, Russia isn't just clashing with the West. It's also strengthening ties with countries like China, Iran, and North Korea. So if war breaks out, it might not be fighting alone. #2. China, this one might not surprise you. China is rising economically, militarily, and geopolitically. And with that rise has come more aggression, especially toward Taiwan. Beijing sees Taiwan as a breakaway province. Taiwan sees itself as a sovereign democracy, and the U.S. walks a tightrope between not recognizing Taiwan formally, but still supplying it with weapons and support. Now here's the scenario. China launches a military invasion of Taiwan either to reunify the island or to punish its independence movement. Taiwan resists, the U.S. steps in, Japan joins. Suddenly, you've got a direct clash between the world's top two military powers. The South China Sea could become a war zone. Cyber attacks fly. Trade routes are shut down. And because Taiwan is a key global supplier of semiconductors, the tiny chips that power everything, the economic impact would be enormous. Every major country would be forced to take sides. This wouldn't stay regional for long. But even beyond Taiwan, China's been testing the waters. Clashes with India in the Himalayas. Militarizing islands in disputed waters. Confronting the Philippines and Vietnam over maritime territory. The message is clear. China's ready to reshape the global order, and it might not care who gets in the way. #1. The United States, yes, the U.S. is number one on this list. Not because it wants to start World War III, but because it's so deeply embedded in global affairs that a conflict anywhere could pull it in. From Europe to the Middle East to the Pacific, the U.S. has military bases, alliances, and defense agreements. NATO, South Korea, Japan, Israel, the Philippines, Australia. It's like a web, and if any part of that web is touched, the U.S. is expected to respond. Now add in its role as a global enforcer. It's involved in almost every international crisis, whether it's responding to Russian aggression, confronting Iran, pushing back against Chinese influence, or defending Taiwan. The U.S. is always in the mix, and here's the uncomfortable truth. Even if another country fires the first shot, it's likely the U.S. that escalates the conflict into something global by necessity or by design. Its unmatched military power is both a shield and a target, and if Washington ever miscalculates, if it responds too fast, too hard, or in the wrong place, the entire world could feel the impact. In short, the U.S. is a superpower with responsibilities everywhere, and enemies almost everywhere too. So, to recap, North Korea, the loose cannon; Iran, the regional powder keg; Russia, the unpredictable nuclear power; China, the rising giant with global ambition; the United States, the centerpiece of a fragile global order. All of them have the potential, under the right circumstances, to light the match that starts a global fire. But here's the bigger question. Is war really inevitable? Not necessarily. Most of these countries don't want a world war. The cost would be unthinkable. The destruction would be total. No one wins. But history shows us that wars often start not from big, bold decisions, but from miscalculations, accidents, or leaders with something to prove. A single drone shot down, a ship in the wrong waters, a political crisis that spirals out of control. The best way to avoid another world war isn't to ignore these threats, it's to understand them, talk about them, and demand accountability from leaders who treat war like a game. So now it's your turn. Which country do you think is the biggest threat to global peace? Did we miss one? Would you rank them differently? Let us know in the comments. We want to hear your take. If this gave you something to think about, hit that like button. And if you want more deep dives on global issues, politics, and what's really going on behind the scenes, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The world's getting more complicated. Stay informed, stay sharp, and stay ready. Thanks for watching.